It's 2008 and I've finally planted the Soviet flag in Berlin at the end of World at War. Boy, I sure do hope nothing bad happens.
Top of the morning to you laddies, my name is Mr. Piss456 here, and today we will be covering a 2-minute topic and stretching it to 5 hours and 47 minutes. I remember playing zombies back when I was a fetus, and I remember feeling shit that no acid trip will ever let you feel. Playing zombies as a kid with other people, it's all about getting the most kills or the most points. It's about competition, ladies and gentlemen. Even though it's a co-op game, but see, the thing is, we don't talk about that. But I distinctly remember that whenever I played alone, I'd make a point to end the game at exactly round 5, because round 5 is usually when Mom, could you be near me while I play zombies? I get scared when I play alone. I often see people saying how much zombies scared them when they were younger, but that they completely grew past that as they got older, attributing the total effectiveness of the horror in zombies to a young age. Now listen, boy, I'ma smack the shit out of you. Introduce zombies to any person in your life who has never played it before. I guarantee that when the time comes that they play it alone, they will feel uneasy at the very least. What is the one game that freaked you out to the core? Wow, I finally got an interesting and thoughtful message in my DM. Easy go. Many people will jump the gun to answer this question with games like Nier Automata, DDLC, the Silent Hill PT demo, Persona 3 or 4 depending on your sexuality, Soma, whatever. Now I, a professional horror aficionado if I do say so myself, yes, would look at this mix of both horror and non-horror games and say, you're right, but see, the thing is, have you ever heard of this game, right? Seriously, don't play this game, just don't. If you have 1 milligram of empathy, don't play this game. If you're any one of these creatures from this wiki article that I pulled out of my ass, do not play this game. It will destroy you. One thing I realized was that I often never felt anything while watching or playing anything of the horror genre. You'll often see people in the comments of YouTube videos related to something of horror, and they'll often read something like, oh my god, this part of chapter 3 made me scream and moan and piss blood out of my pee-pee involuntarily. Oh yeah, daddy. Now I often feel like Mike Wazowski's one and only sacred spirit reading these sorts of comments, because I never felt that way in my life playing any horror game. Until I did. It was not long after that I, the world's best critical horror enjoyer and aficionado, yes, discovered that I was doing it all wrong, ladies and gentlemen. I realized that I usually played horror games at 4 p.m. on a sunny Friday afternoon with a washing machine running in the background. Now obviously that'd be like me saying I enjoyed a horror game with my wife and prepubescent kids at a family activity over the weekend before going over to the park. Like, what the f? As basic and cliche of an advice that it is, immersing yourself by playing horror games in the dark with headphones on with no distractions is undoubtedly the best thing you can do to absolutely shit yourself for free. Sor Maximus. One absolutely critical aspect of experiencing any form of horror media is immersion. The people who say that zombies isn't the least bit scary and that only a kid would feel uneasy playing it don't realize that this argument is detrimental to itself, because kids, they will immerse themselves into anything. You give a kid Rocket League, he's gonna have an identity crisis and think he's a car for the next week or two. However, when I played Alan Wake almost a year ago, I did something absolutely damning to my horror experience. Now, Alan Wake, you know, it's not a horror game, but it does have horror elements. And I, for the majority of the game, tried playing it with maximum immersion to put it as basic as possible. While playing the game, I had been shouting obscenities at the monsters and enemies to the point that probably 90% of my vocabulary used during the game turned into something that would absolutely wipe this channel off of YouTube in a way way that would put both Little Boy and Fat Man to shame, as it'd simply be a brand risk to Google, ladies and gentlemen. Now, ridiculousness aside, I thought about this, right? This game unnerved me to the point where I was trying to overpower the threats in the game in any way that I could think of. My primal monkey brain got brought back to the times of my prehistoric ancestors 50,000 years ago and thought that the enemies in the game were tigers that were somehow threatening my entire species' survival, or some equally cocaine-fueled fucked up analogy that you can think of. When I was playing Alan Wake, I was shouting all sorts of profanities at the shadow monsters in an attempt to overpower the predator. However, it wasn't long before my brain realized that there wasn't any threat to begin with. This was the damning part of my experience, that by becoming so unnerved to the point where my primal monkey brain decided it was caveman time, my coping mechanism, which was becoming a prehistoric ape, came to be detrimental to the horror experience, as my brain realized that I was, in fact, in a safe bubble behind the screen after all. When you play zombies over and over again, you get a sense of how everything works. Your first game ever probably consisted of you not knowing the background and how shit works. And if you were immersed like little Timmy, who was in for a hefty surprise after he completed the World at War campaign back in 2008, let's just say that the weight of the bricks that'd be shot would be quite heavy, if I do say so myself. While the new player spawns right into the map and figures stuff out as he goes on, unnerved by quite a bit of it, the experienced player would start the match out trying to be as efficient as possible, getting the most amount of shit done in the least amount of time.
There was a misinput. Calm down! You calm the fuck!
There's quite a sizable difference even for the experienced zombies player to start a match out as if setting out to avenge Dream, who was their personal mentor and sugar daddy who was killed by the Venezuelan drug cartel, versus actually turning the lights off, sitting down, putting some headphones on, and becoming monkey. Now, even if you do this with zombies, it's not gonna work forever. You will realize that there's no threat, and that zombies specifically is very formulaic to say the least. After all, you are in a safe bubble behind the screen. Until you're not. Well, you are, but like, you're kinda not. What do you feel if that safe bubble of yours is ever pierced, as if, let's say, in a fourth wall break? Fourth wall breaks can be used in a variety of ways. Zombies often uses them in the form of humor, with one of the most iconic lines of Dempsey saying stuff like,
Hey, player! Drop the chips and get me some ammo!
and these sorts of moments makes you develop feelings for Dempsey and turn you into professional fanfic writer in the quest to write the most detailed and erotic Dempsey ship. Or at least it made me feel that way. Hey, what's up guys? My name is Mr. Gay678 here, and today we'll be going over the best fanfics of Dempsey and Rick the Fin that are trending on the internet. Wait, people actually write and draw shit, right? Like, what the fuck is that? What is the primary ideology or primary ideas that fuel your videos?
Satan.
But see, fourth wall breaks can be used for horror too. Now I have a story of one of my friends about this. He was playing MGS2 that day and he was towards the end of the game. Now he was pretty tired as he had a long day that time. If you've not played MGS2 before, to put it as simple as possible, some crazy cocaine meth fueled shit happens towards the end of the game. I can't even begin to explain. He told me that he was pretty out of it and he was accidentally starting to fall asleep here and there. And this was probably the worst place and time in the game for him to do this. I imagine he was rushing through the areas hoping to reach an appropriate place to save, or maybe even a boss fight so that he could call it a day. As he was out of it, I don't think he paid much attention to what was happening in the game, both plot-wise and gameplay-wise. It was just gliding
along. Raiden, turn the game console off right now.
What did you say?
The mission is a failure. Cut the power right now.
What's wrong with you?
Don't worry, it's a game. It's a game just like usual.
You'll ruin your eyes playing so close to the TV.
I believe the most effective way of horror is to scare someone with the fear of the unknown. I stand by the two quotes by H.P. Lovecraft that go, "The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown." And by correlation, never explain anything. Ladies and gentlemen, if someone played Verrückt back when it came out in 2009, it would be very easy and right to say that all the checkboxes for effective horror would be ticked. The player would have to worry about the very unnerving map, the tons of unexplained mysteries, the background of the what and the why, having to worry about other threats, all the while surviving against the constant waves of zombies that are at the forefront of it all. The player would have to balance all of this. In 2021, we now know all about the why and the what. We know the mysteries. We know that there aren't any more threats, save for the bosses in the very late maps. But as a new player back then, we wouldn't know shit about fuck, so it'd be pretty nerve-wracking to say the least. You can take my newer example of this with the map Moon. The first time I played this alone, it was quite an experience. The map starts you off in a small area, almost like an arena, with literal endless waves of zombies coming after you, never stopping, in a time-based manner. You say to yourself that, hey, this is gonna be a balls-to-the-wall, action-oriented map, ladies and gentlemen. When you take the only path there is to proceed, you arrive on the moon itself. Seemingly a wacky idea, and it is. But I'll never forget the feeling that I had when I first opened the first doors and saw that everything was desolate and lifeless. I'll never forget that dreadful vibe, coupled with the sound or lack thereof. Playing in an empty map with little to no sound, with only zombies breaking the silence and the excavator warnings every couple rounds, that meant I'd have to traverse the whole map without dying to the zombies. Not to mention Joe Biden. I still feel this while playing the original map. While horror was an integral aspect of zombies since it came out till around 2013, I'd say, I believe it should be focused on again like never before. You can say World War II zombies already tried the horror shtick, and they did, but they relied too much on cheap thrills instead of building an atmosphere with the fear of the unknown playing an integral part. While the World War II maps were designed in a decent way, I believe the formulaic jump scares and the reliance on extreme gore just for the sake of gore gets old real quick. As the saying goes, horror relying on jump scares is like a comedian tickling you to make you laugh like brr. If horror was the integral aspect of zombies in the beginning and the storyline later took its place, with then the focus shifting to gameplay instead, I believe they really should have a go at horror again after Cold War if they ever do zombies again, which they probably will. And the reason I refer to Treyarch is because they've done it before, with, in hindsight, great execution given that it wasn't the main point of zombies, just one of the main points. If they decide to try horror again and rely on cheap thrills, let me tell you, it would not be worth it. I think the following applies to many people, but I, the professional horror aficionado as you've all come to know me as,
he did the same joke about 3 times already. I don't think it's funny anymore.
I personally am not afraid of the dark, but if there's something in the dark, yeah, that's a whole other story, ladies and gentlemen. And it doesn't even have to be anything. If you just lead me and my brain to believe that there is, and build dread and some form of anxiety, then that's some damn good horror if I do say so myself. And with the earlier maps zombies, this is what I and many other people often felt for the first number of times that we played those maps. If they go balls to the wall on this feeling, imagine how good it'd be. And the best part about dread in a horror game is that it can't get repetitive. If you feel dread over and over again in a horror game, then that's a motherfucker of a horror game, let me tell you. But if you get jump scares over and over like in World War II zombies, it'll simply become annoying after the second occurrence. And there are 972 occurrences on average per game, so yeah, I already know. Our brains love to fill in the blanks. If you lead it to believe that there could be a threat or some form of danger, it'll believe as such. How you cope with it is unique to yourself, but what matters is building an atmosphere with the connotation that, hey, something terrible has happened here and something terrible may be here right now. And as your brain loves patterns so much and loves to guess what stuff could be, it scrambles to fill in the blanks as to what that terrible thing could be and dreads it. And as always, thanks for watching.